Well, hi. Today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. A little bit better today, but still pretty far under the weather. That's why my voice sounds like I'm swallowed a pile of gravel, but that's just what it is. I have one of those voices that if I'm dehydrated, it gets very, very raspy, and when I'm not feeling well and I've been coughing a lot, yeah, I could pass for Barry White, I think, at times, but getting better. And if you are going through it too, and from what I've heard, many of you are, it's just been a nasty, nasty year for illness. So just get your rest, drink your fluids, and, watch The Price is Right. I think that's all the things I used to do when I was a kid. Coming up on this show, we will speak with Carol Horner, author of the book Spiral of Accountability and founder of Synchronicity, and a fascinating conversation about communication and how to better talk with each other on your team at work. And Carol's an expert at it, and that's what Spiral of Accountability is all about. So I hope that you'll stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming up very, very shortly. You know, the ThinkSpace IT brings a creative approach to technology, and I was really thrilled when Jessa and Jason said they wanted to be a part of Morning Coffee and to be able to come on the show. Very thankful for them. And also, we want to show you, I showed you this last time, but this is kind of a cool little card. Keep calm, turn it on and off again. A lot of things can be fixed from that. But when it comes to anything IT, whether it be integration or cybersecurity or what have you, go to thinkspaceit.com, get a hold of Jessa or Jason, and they're going to be able to help you out. Also, ServiceMaster Restore by Schmader. We've told you that she's the one that you need to get a hold of when disaster strikes. Could be a fire, could be a flood, but they do a lot of other things too, including mold remediation. They do carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, content restoration. That can sometimes be from when there's a fire and you're thinking that you've lost everything and from smoke damage. Well, she'll let you know if it's something that they can restore. So you want to get a hold of ServiceMaster Restore by Schmader and let them help you out when it comes time for, as we said, when disaster strikes. They're the ones you want to call. It is Carol Horner, founder of Synchronicity and author of the book Spiral of Accountability. Thank you so much, ma'am. Say, I really like your shirt. As we are recording this, it is Martin Luther King Day, and that's one of his quotes, and I'm seeing it a lot of places online, and I think that just the fact that you have that, I think, is kind of cool. I don't know that I've seen any shirts that have a Martin Luther King quote on it.
Yeah, I'm a fan and have been. And I listen to the I Have a Dream speech a couple times a year, usually, today, MLK Day, and then also on the anniversary of when it was spoken. And this isn't a quote from there, but it's an important quote about, that in the end we will not remember the words of our enemies, but we will remember the silence of our friends. And so I kind of see that as my call to action to not be silent.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And we have been talking a lot about your spiral of accountability, which I think it's a wonderful way for people who maybe are stuck in how to communicate with each other, and they've kind of reached an impasse to shift their perspective a little bit and try to see things from someone else's point of view, just so you can get a communication started. And that's what I love about it, because it's designed to overcome those differences as opposed to solidifying into them.
Yeah. So when we experience a fog, which is that uncertainty or miscommunication or confusion or conflict or change and all those things that make you say, what the fog, right? I also have a t-shirt that says that. What the fog? Is that getting curious piece, right? So that I am open to considering that, one, I don't have all the information. It's not possible for me to have all the information. And because of that, my judgment is narrowed, my experiences are narrowed, and I don't have the full picture. And so that idea of getting curious and seeking additional information, we make better decisions when we do that. And so for me, it's not a matter of, I think what happens in people's minds is that they get to this place of like, I can't ask a question, or it appears as if either I don't know or that I'm not certain in my own conviction, right? And so I don't want to show any vulnerability by seeking to understand someone else. And that's a mistake. And I always tell people that just because I ask a question doesn't mean I'm going to agree and or disagree with anything that you say. It just means I need to ask this question. I need to understand more. Because if I am going to disagree, I need to know from what perspective am I disagreeing, right? Where's our difference at? And if I am agreeing, where are we finding that common ground? And I'm not going to know that just by assumption. Assumptions are really what get us into trouble in these situations. And, I have this like, I have this story that I tell a lot of times with groups where, I'm really trying to help them understand that one, we don't have all the information. It's not possible, not humanly possible for us to have all the information. And even if we're observing stuff, doesn't mean we're interpreting it right. And, as far as like even something like, have you ever driven home, pulled into your driveway, and you don't remember the drive?
Oh, yeah, many times.
And does that mean that you ran stop signs and hit squirrels? No, it just means nothing stood out to capture your attention, because our brains are constantly looking for calmness, looking for how can I conserve energy in case I got to run from a bear, right? We're not going to have to run from bears.
No, that part's over
case,
with. Yeah.
This brain in the back of our head is still stuck way back when, eons ago, when we used to have to run from bears. And so it's looking for this, so it's not going to pay attention to anything that doesn't stand out. And even when it's supposed to stand out, we miss it, right? So you ever had someone close to you and they get a new haircut or new glasses or something, and you just don't even notice. Mm-hmm. Should you have noticed? Yeah, you probably should have noticed. This person's important to you.
Right.
But you didn't notice because our brains are occupied with so many other things. So it's the same thing when we're communicating with others, is that we capture on a headline or a bullet point, and we run as if we understand the entire thinking behind that, as opposed to stopping and going, tell me more about what got you to this point, right? Help me understand what's behind this that you're saying, right? Gaining that clarity before I react, right? Can I take that moment to seek understanding before I react, before I implement? So the human brain has filters, right? And these are 100% necessary. They just get in the way when we use them too fast. So one of the filters is, how much do I agree or disagree with what you're saying? And then the other piece of that, though, is how much do I agree or disagree with how you feel about what you're saying, right? Like, I might not think something would be that big a deal, but it's obviously a big deal to you. My comment needs to not be, well, that doesn't seem to be a big deal, Todd. Because now you're like, yeah, it is, and you're going to prove to me it is, and now we've got an argument. As opposed to going, wow, Todd, that does seem like a big deal to you. Tell me more why this is such a big deal. So that I understand what's behind what you're saying, as opposed to just reacting to what you're saying from my own small little view, right? The other filter is what I call yeah, but. And I tell leaders this all the time. If yeah, but pops in your head, do not let it out your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to understand where they're coming from before you yeah, but something. Because as soon as I say, hey, Todd, that's a great idea, but where's your good idea? It's not. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Of what I'm going to say afterwards. But is actually, I call it it's an acronym. So I was taught this a long time ago. BUT, behold my underlying truth. In other words, what I just said is not true. What I'm about to say is what I really mean. And so being able to find more information before I have to pick apart what you're saying, right? And so that, again, more questioning. Can I ask more questions? Tell me more. or even be able to say something like, and, hey, Todd, that's a great idea. And at the same time, I'm concerned about our budget. Have you thought about that? And you can say, yeah, Carol, I thought about this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you think? And we can continue the conversation versus shutting you down. And then the last one is we fill in blanks with information we don't have.
Without even realizing we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just because it makes sense in our head, it doesn't necessarily mean it makes sense in your head. And I think if we can spend more time just seeking to understand each other, we would have less arguments and we would have more productive conversation. Even if we were debating an idea, the debate would be pleasant.
I think too, and you started with, asking a question. Sometimes a question is just a question.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, and I'm guilty of this, that I think that why are they asking that question? What are they leading me to? The question itself is trying to get me to somewhere else. So it's not really a question, it's a statement. Now, that's an assumption that I would be making that may or may not be true, but whether or not it's true is not, that's not the issue. I should accept something as a question and answer it as that, as opposed to thinking that, okay, somebody's trying to lead me onto something else. It happens in sales all the time, that you ask a question, hope to lead them a certain way, but it doesn't always mean that.
No. And so you can go two ways with that, right? In my opinion. One is go with the idea that, yes, it's a question and just answer the question. And if they are leading you somewhere, maybe it's a valid place to be led to. And the other one is, if you have to question the question, do that. Just say, this feels leading. Or is there something that you're wanting me to respond? Is there a response you're looking for? Right? And if there is, then that's the conversation. But if it's like, no, I'm asking because I don't know the answer to this. Okay, well, here's my answer, right? But for the most part, if someone asks me a question, I go at it from the perspective they're asking me a question, because then I can tell them what I think, right? And they've opened that door for me, and I'll take advantage of that by sharing my thoughts. And if they wanted something in particular, whether or not I gave it to them, that's on them, not on me. But I want to answer the question, and if they've got genuine curiosity, then I'm adding a whole lot of value to the conversation. If they really wanted me to answer a certain way, if I do, then I do. If I don't, then I don't. And, we continue the conversation, hopefully.
I would think a large part of your job when you go into a business and you start this process with the spiral of accountability and everything else that you do with synchronicity is to be able to overcome those barriers that people have put up in front of them. And I don't know if it's a self-protection thing or what it is, that they don't want to let go of whatever thoughts that they are believing right now, and to try and find, I don't even want to call it common ground. It's more of just an openness to be able to communicate with each other. And that has to be really tough for you in some cases, that to be able to, when you got people in opposite camps, to say, okay, we need to drop the barriers and meet and have a legitimate conversation here.
A lot of times when I'm met, like right off the bat with some opposition, I'm either being brought in by some upper level, and whether that be a board of directors or a CEO or something, and I'm working with leadership team or middle management or something, or even employees, is I have to deal with, and I tell leaders this themselves too, every time especially when you come into a new place, but is that I have to deal with every consultant they've ever experienced in their life and everyone that they've ever heard about. And so if their experience has been somebody's coming in to, make heads roll, I have to battle that. And I can complain about battling that, or I can just go ahead and battle it. And it's not a hard battle because it's not what I'm there to do. And to me, I just need to be very, very transparent to prove my trustworthiness, right? And be very honest, and be very open and not judging commentary when I get it. Because so one of the things I do very customarily when I work with leadership teams is I will interview every single one of them, one-on-one, me and them. I want to hear where they think their team stands and what their relationships are like and what they experience in trying to solve problems together. And that is valid from every single perspective. And sometimes I will get things all over. I'll have someone that just swears the team is fabulous and everything is working great, and someone who thinks this is a hellhole and I don't even know how to function. And I'll have that. I can have anywhere in between, or I can have it all one way or the other way. It can be all over the place, but every opinion is valid. And the more that I know, the more I can deal with the dynamic that I see when it starts to show itself, and help them work through that. But for me, my whole objective is I have to gain rapport in order to have trust. And then I have to use that trust to push their boundary. If I just have the trust and I never push their boundary, I'm useless, right? I'm a flavor of the month. But if I can gain the trust enough to be able to push their boundary, push them to consider other things, to look at something a different way, then I'm doing my job, right? But I have to have that rapport first, and I can't have that rapport if I don't move towards where they are and be very transparent that I am not there to fix them. I'm there to hear them and to make everything better for them individually, but collectively as the team. And there's people that are toxic in that environment, and they need to move on for their own health. Because some people just aren't a fit, right? They just they aren't in the same place. I've been that person. I've been that person on a team where it's like, this is not for me. This I don't want to go the same direction this organization is going. I am tired of being pigeonholed into work that I didn't want to do. All these things, all these reasons for me, but I wasn't valuable to them either, right? Because I was constantly just like being disgruntled or being upset and being frustrated. And I had my own reasons why. They weren't necessarily wrong in the direction they were going. It just wasn't the one I wanted. And so it was much better to have me leave for both of us. I was healthier and stronger and moved to a better place. They were healthier and stronger without me. And we have to understand that's just part of the human dynamic. And it's okay to walk away, and it's okay to send people away when they're just not the right fit for this team to move forward. They're not adding value, or I'm not adding value. I wasn't adding value to my team at that time. I was doing good work for my clients, but I wasn't adding value to my team.
There was something, the last couple of years of my professional life fit right into exactly what you're saying. And I heard, I don't know, it was 4 or 5 months ago, I listened to a lot of different motivational podcasts from business leaders and things like that. And one of them said, and it stuck with me, that just because you walked through the wrong door does not mean you need to stay in the wrong room. And that pretty much encapsulates everything.
Is that Adam Grant?
I'm not sure exactly.
Sounds like an Adam Grant.
It might have been, well, and here's the thing too, is a lot of these guys, they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Dan Martell, that he's a Canadian guy. And I think that it might have been him, but still it's that kind of fit in because I knew something was just not right. And 6 months later, it was even less right than it was back then. So, I had to make a change, and mentally, I'm much more at peace now doing what I'm doing. And I'm very grateful for that. And so, yeah, exactly what you're talking about. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, with the spiral of accountability, you said you wrote this, was it 3-4 years ago. How far back does this go?
2019 was when it first
Right.
went
Okay.
live. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, it was the
it
very
goes
end
back.
of 2018. I was putting it together, but the graphic came together in early 2019. I
What
used
is
it for
some
the
of the
very first
what
time in January of 2019.
what is some of the feedback that you have
Mm.
received from this, that as people are reading this book? I mean, because to me, I would think that at some level it has to be pretty eye-opening, and also people kicking themselves saying, why didn't I think of this? This makes so much sense. So why didn't I think of this?
I don't know. Yeah, so the feedback has been very moving for me, very humbling in a couple of ways. One is just, you know, the impact that it's having on individuals and even on teams and on organizations to some extent at this point. Um, I can tell you a couple of stories. One very recently, like just a week ago, I had someone tell me, and they left me a note, wrote me a note that just I cried. I mean, it blew my mind. And she was like, I was sitting on a plane reading your book, and I just imploded. And what she meant by that was just everything fell into making sense. And she goes, it gave me such hope that I could move through this because I could see the path that the spiral creates. And I was like, dang. That just, and she said the quote that I took from her that just really warmed my heart was that it was the sun above the clouds, right? The clouds are
Mm-hmm.
there and they're going to be there, and I've got to work through the clouds, but there's this sun above it that I know is there, and I just need to do that work. And I'm like, wow, and
Yeah.
part of what's humbling too is um, this is written word, right? And she knew me, so that's a little bit different. But I get these comments from readers that don't know who I am, and so they're not hearing my voice when they read the book, where I hear other people tell me that, and I feel really good about that because it's a very authentic book, right? There's no AI in there at all. I completely avoided even touching anything ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
at all during the entire creative process, so that it was 100% my voice with some editing from some really smart people to make me make more sense. But I'm shocked that, I have to, what I have to remember is I have to take care of my written word um, to make sure that I'm clear about my intent because the words are having impact, and the model is having impact. And what this has taught me is that the spiral has long outgrown me. It did that the first time I used it. I realized this was bigger than me, and this idea. So now, my job is to serve the spiral, where I built it for me. I built it for my work. I built it to help a client. I built it to help explain the dynamic I was seeing in teams. And now it's just much bigger than that. And so it no longer belongs to me. I belong to it, and trying to help it because I'm the only one that can, so the idea of, it deserves a TED talk, but I'm the only one that can give it,
Right.
right? Just like it deserved a book and I was the only one that could write it. And there's a second book that will come out at the end of the year that I'm working on just conceptually right now and doing the work myself with it. The impact it's had on me has been life-changing. Just in using, I'm a firm believer in practice what you preach. If I'm going to talk to leaders about this stuff, I had better operate this way. Don't just do as I say, do as I do. And I use it all the time. I catch myself all the time, and you know, and I get shocked sometimes at how bad I am at this. Like, oh my gosh, this was like a big spiral down, and it took me months to catch it. But when I caught it, I realized what the future of the spiral is about, what the second book needs to be about, and that's about building peace and belonging and connection. I feel a great deal of responsibility in helping to bridge the divide rather than perpetuate it and to expand upon it, right? And so learning, how do I help that? And it comes down to just where we started our conversation. How do I question and seek to understand someone else's perspective, how they uniquely got to their thinking through their own experiences, not mine, right? Through their own experiences. And I want to understand those experiences, and I want to understand how they got to that thinking, because when I do, now we have something to work with, right? Now I know, like, I may be able to influence this person, or I may be able to just learn to really accept where they're coming from, even though that's different than me. And we can still move forward and have relationship, and find peace in that relationship. And so that's the work I'm doing now, on me first, so that when I go to write the book, I have some proof of concept, that the spiral is designed to help build peace.
Before we let you go today, Carol, I know that you just recently had left the country for a little while.
I did.
To take in someplace a little more tropical and a little less Iowa cold, as we'll put it. How was your trip?
It was a great trip. So I turned 60 in December, and for my birthday, went to Cozumel. And we had opened the trip up to a whole bunch of people. It turned out to only be me and Carrie. And we had a blast. We hadn't traveled together by ourselves since 2018. We went to New York together, and we had a fabulous time. I got to spend a little bit of time underwater, and that always just refreshes my soul.
Scuba or snorkeling?
Scuba. We snorkeled too, but I went scuba diving. Carrie doesn't dive. She actually snorkeled for the very first time and was like a pro at it right off the bat. When I deal with new snorkelers, and I'm not a great snorkeler because I just want to go down and look at stuff. And I want to be able to breathe underwater. I don't want to have to stay that close to the surface.
Right.
But most new snorkelers just squirm all over the place and fight and get, water in their tube and just all this other. And she was so calm, just kicking along and looking at stuff. And I'm like, dang, she usually has a knack for this. But we had a blast. We had we did an incredible excursion that was just a ton of fun. And we stayed at a great resort, and just really enjoyed each other's company, enjoyed the company of the people in the area, met some new friends, and ate some great food, and ran into some interesting critters.
I remember first time I went snorkeling, when I realized that, they have prescription goggles, because, I wear glasses, and that was life-changing for me, that I can still see, without my glasses on. This is just wonderful. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I was one of those people that was just moving around and, couldn't calm down and just lay still. And eventually the tube had rotated back and was sticking in the water. So, it was, it was an interesting experience, but eventually I really learned to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to the next time. It seems like every time I go on vacation, I'm in the mountains instead of near the water, but I need to book a trip to the beach so I can go enjoy that again too. But
and this is the time to get out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The hard part is that you got to come back into the cold, but still enjoying the respite and being able to rejuvenate a little bit. I think that I need to get that on my calendar as soon as possible. Carol Horner, thank you so much for taking time and joining us again today on Morning Coffee. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to the next time. Are you following George Ivanov at The Best Wrestler on social media? You should, because he's giving updates all the time about what his athletes are doing at various tournaments. And also, if you have a young person that's wrestling, then he's giving you tips on how you can better help that young person. And there's no better way than to join The Best Wrestler, one of the best wrestling clubs around. And in my opinion, they are the best. So get a hold of him, be trained by Olympic wrestler George Ivanov and his dad, who has trained multiple Olympic athletes. So you know that you're getting the very best, and they can get your young athlete onto the next level. So go to thebestwrestler.com to learn more. And Just Sue Creative has been doing updates to my website and my website, leshillsmedia.com. And go to her website too, justsuecreative.com, and you can see all the work she's been doing there. I just showed somebody recently the website, and the first thing they said is, wow, this really looks good. And I said, yes, I know, she does such great work. And it was very easy to follow, very streamlined, whether you were looking at it on a desktop computer or on the phone for the cell version. She takes care of all of that, handles SEO, and there's so many different ways that Sue can help you grow your business online. So go to justsuecreative.com to learn more. Well, that's going to wrap up this show on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I've got more vitamin C to drink, and well, actually, I'm just taking it in capsule form now because a lot of sugar in orange juice, and I'm trying to cut back on that. But hope everyone is doing well. Stay healthy. Keep washing those hands, and we'll all get through this season together. Spring can't be that far away, right? My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.